Hey guys, welcome. This is Excel 1. Welcome back. I recommend you bring headphones to the school if you're going to use the school computers, because then you can listen to the audio on these video assignments, these Excel assignments. So what you have here is a budget. Budget's by far the most commonly applicable thing. I think a lot of Americans don't have budgets. This is a pretty simple setup. You could actually copy this and try to apply it to your own life. Think about the different expenses that you have. So what you're going to do is follow the instructions and then write your answers to the summary questions here. Instead of me doing it for you, I'm going to show you some of the basic things that you need to be able to do on sheet 2. So for instance, if I have a list of numbers, 456, 89, 123, 659, 1,450, and I want to find out what they add up to, I start with the equal sign, I write the word sum, I use the open parenthesis, which is shift 9. Now I'm going to use my mouse here. I'm going to go highlight those cells. Okay. So again, I started in the middle of the cell when I was selecting, and I went down to where I wanted to go to. Then I let go of the mouse. I close the parentheses here, press enter. So you can check on your calculator, but basically if you add those 5 numbers up, that's what you get. Now you could do that by typing it, equals sum, open parenthesis, A1. A1 is the cell I want to start at. Then I use the symbol colon, which is shift semicolon, which is next to the letter L. And then I type A5. And then I close the parenthesis, I press enter. Notice that it didn't matter how I did the capitalization, it updated the capitalization for me. There's certain things that Excel will automatically do for you. Like for instance, I don't have to put that last parenthesis, I can press enter and it'll put it on for me. Basically what this means if you're into coding is like tell Excel what formula to do, which is add everything up, start at A1, the colon means go to or go through A5. So go from A1 to A5 and add them all up. And then Excel does it for me. It's pretty awesome because one of the things that happens when students do calculations in a calculator is that they mistype numbers or they leave zeros off or whatever, and then the answer comes out wrong even though you were doing everything right. So the nice thing about computers is that as long as you've typed in the numbers there and you can see them all, Excel's going to add them up correctly. So that first thing is sum. It's adding up numbers. You're going to use that quite a few times. Now the next thing is what's called a cell reference. Now a cell reference is where I have this number over here and I really am interested in having that number over here, and so I bring it over. And the way I do that is again with the equal sign, and then I'm going to say A9. See how it highlights A9 for me. When I press enter, then it brings the number over. Now the power of the cell reference, I'm going to get rid of this A8 because it's not necessary. The power of the cell reference is that if I change this number, it's like, oh, it wasn't 89, it should have been 100. That changes A9, and since I had a cell reference here, then D8 changes when A9 changed. So that's called a cell reference. And that's really all you need to do here. Do a couple of sums, these yellow boxes, do some cell references. Oh, one more thing. Glad I went over and looked at it. Subtraction. Subtraction is not, let me tell you another Excel thing here. Notice how this subtraction word is sort of falling into the next column. If I want to make the column bigger, I go up between F and G, and I left click and I drag over. Okay, so subtraction does not have a formula. Sum is a formula, but subtraction just uses the minus symbol. The minus symbol, so let's say I have this number here, 458, and I want to find out what the difference is between these two numbers. So I'm going to write equals, I'm going to use the cell reference, D8, and I'm going to put the minus. Minus can be found 2 places on the keyboard. If you have the big keyboard, you only have the small keyboard, then it'll be to the right of the 0. And then I'm going to click on D9. Okay, so it does the subtraction for me. Now, the Again, the highlighting shows the blue comes first, then the red. The order matters in subtraction. Like if I wrote D9 minus D8, I would get a negative number, which is different. Another thing to point out is that negative numbers in accounting are shown with parentheses. So you may have seen some of your answers come out in parentheses. That comes out because it's negative. So those are the things you need to be able to do to fill out the yellow boxes. Then you're into answering the summary question here. Now, I'm not going to answer the summary question for you, but again, you see a multi-part question, break it apart. Why do you think it's important to have two different columns, estimated and actual? That's one question. Don't focus on the second question, just focus on that question, right? Why do you think in a budget we should have an estimated column and an actual column? And then after you answer that question, give a specific example of a place where the estimated and the actual expenses did not match from the sheet. So this is kind of similar to what you did in the first one where you were looking at the grading scale and then the lower grading scale. You're just looking for differences. And it says here not to list a bunch of differences, but to give a specific example. That's not plural, it's singular. So you only have to do one. Again, full sentence, don't, put cell phone or, here's, I'm going to give you a bad answer. First question, why do I think it's important to have two different columns? Because they might be different. Cell phone. Okay. First of all, cell phone is not different. And second of all, I want sentences. This is not an opportunity to practice being as concise as possible, but rather to try to say what you're thinking and put it into words. And if possible, use numbers when you're talking about things that have to do with numbers. Okay. That's it for Excel 1. You should find that pretty straightforward, I hope. If you're struggling with Excel, there's resources that you can get to get help. I hope we can do this one in class together, first couple at least. But if you miss class or whatever, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Okay.